Imagine stepping into a place where silence feels heavy, where the air seems to carry stories untold, and where the line between the living and the dead feels blurred. Necromancy, fear, and curiosity often intersect in one place: the morgue. For centuries, morgues have been surrounded by an aura of mystery and unease, with countless stories, both real and fictional, emerging from their shadowed corridors. In this video, we'll uncover 3 chilling real-life stories from morgues that have left witnesses questioning what they thought they knew about reality. These tales will take you deep into the unsettling and the inexplicable, challenging your courage and imagination. From eerie apparitions to unexplained phenomena, these accounts promise to send shivers down your spine and perhaps leave you pondering the mysteries that lie just beyond the veil. So, why are morgues such a rich source of fascination and fear? Maybe it's the association with death, the unknown, or the whispers of something more, something supernatural. Whatever the reason, these stories hold a unique power to captivate, terrify, and intrigue. Stay with us as we begin this journey into the macabre, and remember, these are no ordinary stories. They are real. Why do morgues fascinate and terrify us in equal measure? These cold, sterile spaces are more than just facilities for processing the dead. They are thresholds between the living and the unknown. The cultural significance of morgues transcends their practical purpose, making them a fertile ground for tales that blend mystery, fear, and sometimes the supernatural. Throughout history, societies have grappled with the concept of death. Some cultures celebrate it, viewing it as a transition to another realm, while others treat it with fear and avoidance. Morgues, as places intimately tied to death, embody this tension. Their stark environments and somber purpose make them inherently unsettling. Add to that the human tendency to fill the gaps of the unknown with imagination, and it's no wonder morgues have become central to countless legends and eerie anecdotes. Pop culture has only amplified this mystique. Movies and TV shows frequently portray morgues as settings for horror and suspense, where the dead seem to take on a life of their own. Whether it's a shadow moving in the corner of a dimly lit room, or the sound of a drawer sliding open without explanation, these images tap into our deepest fears about death and the supernatural. Statistics even show that morgues evoke unease among the general population. In a recent survey, nearly 50% of respondents admitted they would avoid entering a morgue under any circumstance, even during the day. This collective apprehension speaks to the power morgues hold over our imaginations. As we move into the first story, keep these themes in mind: our cultural relationship with death, the role of imagination in shaping fear, and the way stories from morgues have become mirrors for our deepest anxieties. These factors set the stage for the chilling tales ahead. It was an ordinary night shift for David, a seasoned technician at a local morgue. He had grown accustomed to the cold silence, the hum of refrigeration units, and the clinical detachment his job required. But that night would be anything but ordinary. The clock struck 3 a.m., a time often shrouded in superstition as the witching hour. David was busy cataloguing the paperwork for a recent arrival when he heard it. A faint tapping sound echoing from the far end of the hall. At first, he dismissed it, chalking it up to the building's creaks or a distant piece of equipment. But as the minutes passed, the tapping grew louder, more deliberate, almost rhythmic. Curiosity, mixed with unease, drove David to investigate. The sound seemed to be coming from one of the storage drawers. As he approached, the air felt heavier, the sterile chill of the room turning almost stifling. He hesitated for a moment before pulling the handle to reveal nothing. The drawer was empty, as it should have been. Relieved but unnerved, David closed the drawer and began to turn away, when it happened again. This time, the tapping came from behind him. Whipping around, his heart pounding, he found himself staring into the dimly lit hall. At the very edge of the shadows stood a figure. It was indistinct, almost translucent, but unmistakably human-shaped. Frozen in place, David could only watch as the figure seemed to glide into the darkness and vanish completely. The next morning, shaken but unsure if what he experienced was real or a product of exhaustion, David shared the story with his colleagues. To his surprise, several of them admitted to hearing strange noises and seeing fleeting shapes during their own shifts. One even claimed to have seen the same shadowy figure, always at the same hour. Whether it was a trick of the mind, residual energy from the deceased, or something far more sinister, David's experience was just one of many at the morgue. For him, it was a stark reminder that some things are beyond explanation, and that even in a place dedicated to the dead, something might still linger. Linda had been working as a forensic assistant for 5 years, and she prided herself on her ability to stay composed no matter the situation. The morgue had its eerie moments, but she had always considered herself too rational to be swayed by ghost stories or unsettling coincidences. That was until one particular night changed her perspective forever. It began with a routine autopsy. The subject was a middle-aged man who had died under suspicious circumstances. Linda and her team were tasked with uncovering the cause of death. The body had been in storage for several days, and everything seemed normal, until it wasn't. As Linda reached for her tools, the overhead lights flickered briefly, casting strange, jagged shadows across the room. Everyone paused, exchanging uneasy glances, but they quickly resumed their work. As the examination progressed, the air in the room grew noticeably colder, even for the morgue. Then the body moved. Not a twitch or muscle spasm often seen in corpses, but a sudden, deliberate jerk of the hand. Linda froze, her heart racing. One of her colleagues, trying to maintain composure, suggested it was a post-mortem reflex, but Linda wasn't so sure. Something about the movement felt wrong, almost purposeful. Minutes later, the computer monitor displaying the body's data began to glitch, the screen flashing erratically. Then the lights went out completely. The room was plunged into darkness, broken only by the weak beam of Linda's flashlight. As she shone the light toward the body, she saw it again, the hand twitching, as if trying to grasp something unseen. The power returned moments later, and the room felt as though it had returned to normal. But the unease lingered. Linda and her team completed their work in tense silence, each too afraid to voice what they were thinking. Was it merely a coincidence of electrical issues and natural phenomena? Or was there something about this particular body that resisted rest? In the days that followed, Linda would replay the events in her mind, searching for logical explanations. Yet, the image of that hand's unnatural movement would haunt her long after the body was gone. Rebecca, a night shift nurse with over a decade of experience, always claimed that fear had no place in her line of work. Hospitals and morgues, she believed, were simply places where life and death coexisted, a natural part of her reality. But there was one night in the cold room of the hospital morgue that would forever challenge her confidence. She had been tasked with transferring a recently deceased patient to a storage drawer. It was late, and the hospital was unusually quiet. The morgue was lit only by the faint glow of a single overhead light, casting long shadows across the room. Rebecca went about her task methodically, moving the stretcher into position when she felt it. A subtle shift in the air, as though someone was standing behind her. She turned quickly, expecting to see a colleague, but the room was empty. Shaking off the feeling, she continued. Then came the sound, a soft whisper, almost imperceptible, yet distinctly human. It was as if someone was murmuring just out of earshot. Rebecca froze, her pulse quickening. She scanned the room, but no one was there. Gathering her courage, she resumed her task, only to feel an overwhelming sensation of being watched. Her eyes darted to the corner of the room, and that's when she saw it. A shadow darker than the surrounding dimness, standing completely still. The shape was unmistakably humanoid, but it had no features, no discernible outline beyond its menacing presence. As Rebecca stared, the shadow seemed to shift, moving closer without actually stepping forward. Panicking, she turned to leave, only to hear the soft whisper again, now clearer, as if calling her name. The cold she felt wasn't just from the refrigeration units. It was deeper, chilling her to her core. Rebecca bolted from the room, refusing to return until morning. When she told her colleagues what happened, they shared similar accounts: whispers, shadows, and a suffocating sense of being watched. The cold room, it seemed, wasn't just for the dead. It had a presence of its own. From that night on, Rebecca avoided the morgue unless absolutely necessary, haunted by the memory of the shadow and its unspoken message. What is it about morgues that makes them such fertile ground for the inexplicable? Perhaps it's their proximity to death, the final frontier that humanity has yet to truly understand. Each of the stories you've heard tonight shares a common thread, a sense of unease that transcends logic, leaving those who experience them questioning their beliefs about the natural and the supernatural. David's shadowy figure, Linda's restless body, and Rebecca's chilling presence all highlight how the human mind struggles to reconcile what it cannot explain. Were these experiences merely coincidences, heightened by the stress and solitude of working in morgues? Or are these stories proof of something lingering in the spaces where life and death meet? The truth remains elusive, but the questions linger. Morgues are more than just places for the departed. They are mirrors reflecting our deepest fears and curiosities. They remind us of the fragility of life and the mysteries of what lies beyond. For some, these stories are cautionary tales. For others, they are invitations to explore the unknown. As you reflect on these accounts, ask yourself, do you believe in the supernatural, or do you seek logical explanations for the unexplainable? Either way, these stories challenge us to confront the unknown, and perhaps to embrace the mystery. Thank you for joining us on this chilling journey into the mysteries of morgues. Each of these stories reveals how thin the veil can be between the world we know and the unknown. Whether you believe in the supernatural or lean toward logical explanations, one thing is certain: morgues are places that hold more than just silence, they hold secrets. If these tales sent shivers down your spine, don't keep the chills to yourself. Like this video, share it with friends, and hit that subscribe button for more stories of the strange and unexplained. Stay tuned, because the next tale might just be the scariest yet.